turn and put it in the exact same spot.
Hi, and welcome to Yeti at Large. This is a channel focused on making the most out of what you have, no matter where you're at. Thanks for tuning in and helping out.
As promised, the first installment of What's in Your Kitchen series, the rival brand 1961 Grind-O-Mat. Now, we don't even know if this thing is safe to actually use with food anymore. It's certainly not National Sanitation Foundation certified, so we won't be using it to feed other people. This will just be a strictly internal household item. But the first issue we have is we need to clean it. We need to make sure that the blade is sharp and that the grinding face is clean. This is horribly corroded right now. And we'll go through and sanitize it all. Our biggest challenge right now, this appears to have a suction cup base that's supposed to lock on to the countertop, and this thing is so brittle I don't think it's going to do anything. I've looked, I can't seem to find this anywhere, not the end of the world, but what if we engineer it and take an old cutting board, attach it to the cutting board so that we can clamp that to the edge of our table or countertop and then have a place for our bowl.
At this point, I recognized the first effort was a fail because the base relied on conical pressure. As I screwed it down, it warped it and it unlocked the mechanism. So I used a nail set, pushed the pin out of there, and went with this large bolt with 2 washers because there was already a perfect hole right in the middle of that. On the drill press, I recessed the backside so the bolt would sit a little more flush, break out the 5-inch cutting wheel, and trim off the extra bolt that we no longer need. Here, I've already chased the holes in the grinder plate with the drill bit to get them to clean metal and polish the face with 800 grit sandpaper. The actual cutter wheel needs to be at a perfect 90-degree angle to the cut face, so I did the same thing with that paper to get a good edge on it. I felt confident that it was going to be very sharp because this is good quality steel and it just needed to be cleaned up. The aluminum body of it was easy to clean up and sanitize, and you can see there's a white plastic washer for the hand crank in the back that was in really good shape. We're ready to reassemble this and to test drive it to see if it's going to work. The impeller shaft is a critical part of the grinder, and how you assemble it determines how well it will cut because there needs to be the proper pressure between the blade and the grinder face. I had to actually call my mother for the tip because she had told me that there's a notch in that die and it needs to be lined up perfectly. So by sticking your finger through the chuck and holding it in place, you can thread that on there and it gets the right amount of back pressure, and you can see it should give a little resistance. The problem here is just about the moment you think you're pretty cool and you give the camera a thumbs up, you realize you're not as cool as you think you are. I had completely forgotten to lock the headpiece into the base. you hear it click with a very solid lock, so we know we're good to go.
All right, got her all sanitized and dry. And you can see how these little clover leaves match the corner of my table. Now, this is just a wood clamp, right? It's not going to have any actual food contact, but I have just enough of a lip that I think this is going to work. Nesting stainless steel bowls and a colander and a strainer. This one will do. Much better. Woohoo! I'm going to have to turn off Bossa Nova, and I'm going to put on some Metallica Destruction ink. All right, so there's my grinding station. It's fairly secure, the auger's working, and it won't make that squeaking noise when it's being lubricated. To dietary restrictions and choices. Now, I respect all preferences. People who are meat eaters, omnivores, lacto-ovo, vegetarians, vegans, and I even more respect the people who have dietary restrictions based on nutritional needs. Imagine someone who's in renal disease and they have to eat a neutropenic diet. That's no phosphorus. Think of the things that eliminates. Chocolate, orange juice, beans, coffee. Welcome to hell on earth, especially if you love something as simple as barbecue sauce. So just because you see us grinding meat in here, just know that we've got nothing but love and respect for every different type of diet and preference, whether that your motivations be faith-based, they be political, they be environmental, or they just be personal. Like I said earlier, I don't eat pork anymore. It just doesn't sit well with me. I don't feel well, but I still eat a little bit of bacon, use it as a garnish. And Alaska Prepper, I disagree with you highly. Chocolate is an essential preparedness item. Back to the grind. Now you'll notice slight discoloration on this cutting board, especially right here in the center. I don't like these white plastic cutting boards. They work like a petri dish. I prefer wood, especially the new bamboo ones. If there's any sponsors out there, I would love to feature your products. All right, so no magic of Hollywood here. I have yet to run anything through this grinder, and I'm not quite sure what we're going to get. One of the questions that I need to ask myself is sometimes you're going to do a double grind, meaning once we run it through once, it's going to want to go through again. I got a little plastic wrap over my beef just to keep it covered, and let's see what we get. Holy cow, there's the first half right there. I just pulled this out of the fridge. I'm going to rotate this into the fridge. That was awesome. The 1961 Grind-O-Mat. Let's sanitize this and let's go! Sorry, dude. I'll delete that out. That's your thing. All right, so that's everything. I may take this out to the shop and hit it with some compressed air. Another great thing to do with these steel parts where there's no plastic or anything, you can bake these in the oven, get them to 350 and sanitize the daylights out of them. So we're gonna break out the great big bowl. And I know I said I wasn't gonna wear gloves, but I'm gonna get both my hands into this mix. And the last thing I wanna do is over-invest in it. You can get these at Harbor Freight. These are powder-free gloves. They're pretty lightweight, so you gotta be careful with them. I wash my hands after I put them on anyway, but all I'm gonna do, I don't wanna over-compress this. I just wanna go through and get a good blend and make sure that my fats are evenly distributed before we start making our burgers. Now I'm going to make a relatively small burger because we can always stack them, and my little burger press isn't that great. Now you'll see it collapsed immediately, and I'm trying to avoid over compressing it here. So standard half-size sheet pan. This is half of a piece of parchment paper. If you want some more on building your skills with parchment paper, look at my other videos for making pastry cones. I don't use plastic or aluminum foil because it can easily get up into your food. This is a little bit better to stay aside. Amazon burger press. It's a large diameter because you know the grilled product, especially if you got fat in it, it's going to get smaller. Easy to wash, sanitary. It's got the couple of lines, and I can line this with paper to make my burgers, and we're going to get started. And now I've done this so many times, I have the weights down pretty pat. But to make the smaller size burger that I'm looking for, It is 2 scoops on my, it's a blue scoop. It's got a number on it. I think it's a number 16. So I'll go ahead and scoop all this out, and then we'll build our burger patties. All right, so there's our burgers. And here is stupid chef trick number 75. Staggered rows. Don't put your thing in 3x5 or 4x6 or whatever. Put them in 3-2, 3-2 or 5-4 staggered rows. Your cookies will stay rounder. You'll have more even cooking space and better heat all around things. You can always spot someone who's worked in a commercial bakery by their adherence to staggered rows. And an interesting thing, I've always had this knack of just eyeballing stuff and guesstimating exactly how much I need for the equipment that I have. There's my last burger, 2 full scoops. Here's all the other burgers. This is going to be my tester. So anytime you're grinding meat, you're making sausage, you're making meatloaf, and you're not sure, hey, take this to baking. You're not sure if your batter is where you want it, take a little portion, put it on some foil, and test bake it. If it's not right, add more lemon, add more vanilla, add a little more flour to get more structure, add a little more liquid so it moves a little bit more, whatever the case may be. I'm going to chill these before we press them. I'm going to test this burger on the grill. That one. Whoops. I'm going to test this one on the grill, and we'll get right back to you. Stupid chef trick number 44. How to tear plastic wrap. Always go past. Never leave the edge on your food. If it's going to touch food, fold it back on itself so that you have a better seam and you don't leave little shreds of plastic on your food. If you have one of these serrated edge things, not the slidey gizmo, grab both sides together and slightly down. And so pressing a burger. I don't add any seasoning, nothing ahead of time. This is just chuck. You'll notice I've wrapped my top in plastic wrap. I only need 1 piece of paper to keep them separated. And I've twisted it in the same direction as the handle to keep it threaded on there. That's a double portion of plastic wrap. And it's just nice because the burger doesn't stick to it and it keeps it a little more sanitary. Very simple stuff. I take a piece of my parchment paper, my patty. Now that's been compressed from scooping it, but not from rolling it around in my hands and making it all mushy or melting the fat in it. And I will take this, and I'll give it a pretty good press, but I'm not trying to over crush it. I only press it to the point that it forms good square edges all the way around. And as you can see, I've done this so many times with these portions, that is an excellent size for a burger. Now these monster burgers, these super thick burgers, all that, and Gordon, nothing but love, buddy, but this is a lot more realistic to manage. If you want a giant burger, cook 2 of these, stack them. Add bacon, add cheese, whatever you want. Grilled pineapple, you can go crazy. Prepping your grill. You can see I got it good and hot. And this is a little 2-burner propane grill. I love this thing. Not the cleanest, not the dirtiest. I use a basic wire brush, and I just give it a quick brush after it's hot. And you'll notice everything just flakes off. Now these are cast iron grates in here. I love these a lot more than I do the steel ones. I think they hold heat and they do a lot better. But anything I put on this is going to stick pretty bad right now. I like to use a little basic pan spray, olive oil or whatnot. Keep the can far away from the heat. These things can pop. And I never will spray the grill itself. All I'm doing is putting a bunch of fat down in there and creating fire. I'll hold my product and spray my product a little bit. Now, nothing fancy. I've just got 1 burger we're going to test. This is the one, our sampler. I've got a little bit of Montreal seasoning. Like I said, I never try to shake out of the container because you lose control over it. And I'm going to season this on both sides. And like I said, I'm certain it's going to stick. So I'll just grease it up on this one side, and you'll see the benefit of having this paper that we make. And I can just lay it down. I'm not slamming it on there. I will never press it or push on it. And I will wait until I see juices coming up before I even try to lift and flip. I like diamonds on my grilling, so 45, 45, flip, and a 45. All right, we don't have any juices pooling on the top yet, but we also don't have a lot of fire underneath, so that's good. Let it go. And don't keep opening the grill. If you're looking, you're not cooking. Yeah, now we're there. So gentle, and a turn on the same spot, 45 degrees. A little more seasoning right on top. These are looking closer to 75-25, 70-30. If you're a butcher and you got any notions, please put a comment down below. All right, a couple minutes later, let's turn and put it in the exact same spot. Now you're going to get a little flame up when you flip because we're getting some juice and some fat coming out of that. A couple more minutes. And this little guy's a happy camper. Yeah, we're going to go with 70-30, which means this is going to be delicious. Join me inside. All right, so this is our sampler off the grill from our rival Grind-O-Mat experiment. And again, we just put about 5.5 ounces of beef, and this looks like a 70-30. This is obviously cooked medium well done, with just a little Montreal seasoning. Ooh, hot. This is a good little burger. We didn't over compress it, so it's got a pretty gentle texture. It had a good fat content, so it's delicious. And this will make a good building block for part 2 of the rival Grind-O-Mat. Wait till you see what we do with this puppy. Not a chance, Agnes. Not a chance.